Hey guys, the Explorer of Horror here, the Horror Boy. Welcome back to some more reviews, and today we're getting to another review on another House movie. This is going to be the last review I'll be doing for a while. Maybe one day I'll check out House 3 and 4. I know that 3 has a pretty big cult following. I know that part 4, it has William Katt coming back in that one, but I don't know. Maybe one day I'll see those sequels, but for now, we'll be getting to the last review for now on these movies, and that is on House 2, The Second Story, which came out in 1987, gets a 5.4 on IMDb, directed by Ethan Wiley. Now, this is a director that would go on to make a few movies as far as directing goes. A lot of low-budget stuff. He made Children of the Corn 5, Fields of Terror, which, to be honest, I don't remember that being a bad movie. Yeah, I know people hate those sequels, but I don't really remember that one being terrible. It wasn't anything great, but it wasn't something that I absolutely hated. But again, I haven't seen Children of the Corn 5, Fields of Terror in years. But it just surprises me that this guy wouldn't go on to really direct much else. I guess he was responsible for the screenplay of the original House as well. And the original House made money when it came out. It was a pretty big hit. And I know Sean S. Cunningham was involved with the production of these movies. And basically, they wanted to make a sequel. And they kind of went, in my opinion, the route that I thought was the right way to go. Because you can do so much different ideas of the House concept. And I really enjoy the fact that they didn't just remake the first movie or rip it off or just do a really half-ass sequel. I like how this one is just completely a different experience than the first movie. I mean, first of all, this is PG-13. The first movie is a very rated R horror film. This one's PG-13. Big difference there. Because in the first movie, you just had really graphic stuff, really awesome-looking makeup effects from the creatures, and it was a very R-rated horror film. Here, it's much more, the PG-13 rating shows more. And for most people, I feel would be a turn-off. It'd be something that, people really probably wouldn't get into. But I got into the fact that this movie is just a completely different film than the first movie. It's not even really related to the first movie at all. This is one of those sequels that really is just a completely different movie than the first film. Really the only connection to the first House it has is the fact that it's called House 2. But everything else about this movie is just very, very different. And I actually like that. I like where the story went. I like how it's different. I like how it doesn't rip the first movie off. I also really enjoyed this movie for what it is. Now, here on IMDb, it's called a comedy fantasy horror movie. This really isn't a horror movie. And I'm pretty sure that if most people see this movie and think it's going to be a horror movie, you're probably going to hate it. And there are people that don't like this movie out there. I will say it's not as good as the first movie. I love the first movie a lot more, but this one's still pretty good in my opinion. Just a very, very different movie than the first film. And we'll get more in depth in that in a second. But to get to the story, pretty much you have the movie opens up with these people being killed by a ghost, and you don't know what's going on. And you find these two people were the parents to our lead, Ari Gross. And his character has had this house in his family for generations. And kind of similar stuff like in the first movie. In the first movie, the lead character was an author of a book series that was a horror book series. And he was writing this Vietnam novel. Here, excuse me. Here, you have a guy, Ari Gross, playing the Jesse character, who is a writer for this magazine. So that's very similar. You have a similar idea of, a past situation that led to the future, which, in the first movie it was the guy dying in Vietnam and William Katt leaving him there by accident. Here, you have this character called Graham, played by Royal Dano, and basically his character has had a partner who tried to betray him, and he killed him. And this partner comes back in this movie as a ghost. So you kind of have that as well. But the movie, besides those little points here and there, is just very, very different. You also have the character Charlie, played by Jonathan Stewart. This guy also was in Fright Night. Did a good job in that. Did actually a really good job in this movie. I was really surprised by his performance. And I checked his IMDb, and it's apparently he's a really big producer of Ellen, the TV show Ellen. And that's crazy, because like, if anything, you wouldn't expect, to be a big producer of the Ellen DeGeneres show, So that's pretty interesting. But you also have an early appearance by Bill Maher in this movie, who'd go on to just do all kinds of stuff on TV and, comedy and stuff like that. You also have John Ratzenberger playing the Bill character, which we'll get into that character soon. John Ratzenberger did a great job in this film. And you also have Laura Parlink in this movie, who was from Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood, and she played Tina in that movie. And in this movie, she's pretty much playing this girlfriend who, I don't think you're really supposed to like the character. She's kind of a girlfriend that's always slapping the Jesse character. We'll get into that in more detail in a second. But the story basically is Jesse moves into this house, finds these old pictures, finds out about this crystal skull. Yes, the crystal skull. And the whole time I'm watching this movie, and it doesn't really help in the fact that, when the first picture you see of a crystal skull, it's these adventurers, they're holding the skull. One of them is wearing a hat and has a whip. And there's a pyramid in the background, and I'm just thinking straight up like, man, Indiana Jones had to, the people who made that movie had to have watched this movie. They had to have. There is just so many similarities in this film to that movie. But I'll be honest, man, the Crystal Skull aspect in this movie, I just thought it was really unique and different. Definitely very, very different. And basically, this crystal skull gives the holder immortality. They live forever. And they go and dig up his great-great-great-grandpa, to get this skull. And the grandpa's still alive because he's immortal. Except he's really aged and he's pretty much a zombie. They bring him back, realize that they got to protect this crystal skull from people who are going to try and take it. And different parts of the house are like portals to other dimensions. So you'll have a portal that takes them to, say, an area where it's just a bunch of dinosaurs and cavemen and stuff like that, and creatures. You have one that's more of like a temple area, and there's more of an Egyptian atmosphere. There's all kinds of different locations they use in this movie for that. And I thought it was a very unique idea. And basically, more and more people are trying to take this skull to where you get to the end of the movie where this cowboy character comes in. He's pretty much this character who the Gramps character killed before. And he's trying to get the skull to become immortal. And the movie's plot I liked. I would say I liked the first movie's plot a lot more. This one's just really out there and different. It's definitely original. I liked it, though. I really did. I like this movie for what it is. I think that's the thing, is when you watch House 2, The Second Story, really just expect what the title says. It's the second story. It's a different story. You need to be able to accept it for what it is. That is a PG-13, lighthearted adventure action film. It's really not even a horror movie at all. It's just there's not really any horror elements besides maybe the undead cowboy character. Besides that, there's not really any horror aspects in this movie. And to be honest, I'm kind of glad because, really, the first House I really loved. So how do you follow that up? How do you follow it up in a horror tone? I just feel it was much better to go this route because, A, they did it the right way. You got two great leads, Jesse and Charlie. Two characters that I can get into. I remember their conversations, their dialogue, their lines. I remember certain situations in the movie where, the Charlie character has this knife, a flip knife, and he does that. He's like, daring this guy to come at him, and then this guy pulls out a giant knife, and he's just like, oh, screw it, and he runs. It's just, you remember these characters. They're done well, they're acted well. And I think their performances in this movie were really well done. They're two great leads, two awesome leads. And it's just like the first movie, it just has a good heart to it. It has this really good, I guess I could say, it's really one of those horror movies like Poltergeist, where the whole family can kind of watch it, I'll be honest, man, Poltergeist is even more of a horror film than this one. This one's really just a very wholesome, well-done action movie with just a really light tone to it. And I think for the way that it was done, if it was done the wrong way, it would have been a disaster. But for this movie, I feel it was done the right way. And for me, it's a pretty cool direction to take the series, because not many part 2s do that. Maybe part 5s or 8s, but not a lot of second sequels do that, where they do different stories. And no, also House 3 is a completely different story. So I like that. It's kind of like Halloween 3, what they're trying to do with that movie, where every Halloween movie focuses on the Halloween holiday, but they're doing different stories. But here it's like, well, every movie involves a house, but it's different stories. I like that. That's a creative idea. I can get behind that. And you can make your franchise last forever in that realm of doing sequels, which is why I'm surprised more franchises don't do that, especially the ones where it's like, how do you follow up Candyman? I'm not even really saying with Candyman, because Candyman, I mean, what else could you do with Candyman? But I'm saying, like, it's hard to figure it out. I really can't. It would not work with Candyman, because you could not take the Candyman, change the character or anything like that, because it is iconic. So I don't think it'd work with Candyman. But just certain movies where it's like, okay, you did the first movie, did it well, how are you going to follow that up, I'm just surprised more franchises don't do it more often, where every movie is a different kind of plot line, just involving around, in this instance, it's still in a house. So I like the plot line. I like the new tone, I even think it's a well-shot movie. And the sets, a lot of usage of practical sets, I really enjoy. I still love the music in this movie. It's done again by Harry Manfredini. Once again, a pretty good score. I just think this movie, the story is definitely very out there. It's very out there, but I really appreciate it for the risks it took. And I don't know if it made too much money, because I know that House 3 was made, and they made a House 4 as well, so it had to have made some money. But I know the first movie was pretty successful. But, like, here, I like certain scenes. Like, this is one of my favorite parts of the movie, actually, is when the Bill character shows up. And he's pretty much this guy's going to fix the lead character's house up. And his character, the dialogue and everything, awesome character. He's digging apart this wall, finds a little hole in it, and it just grows into this giant hole. And he goes in, he's like, I think you have another dimension in your wall. And he's just a badass. He just shows up out of nowhere, becomes a third lead. Out of nowhere. And he's kicking ass. They go to this little temple area. They rescue this kind of Cleopatra character. They rescue her. They're all kicking ass. And they get out of there. And he gives them the card that says, Bill. Whatever, and then it says repairman, turns it over / adventurer. Love that. That is awesome. I love the character, the acting, and I believe maybe he's not, but he's kind of like the guy who voiced the piggy bank character in Toy Story. It is. That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. Ham. I was like, I knew he was in there somewhere, man. He was also in Cheers. He's also in Wall-E and The Incredibles. I knew it. He's been a voice actor in so many Disney movies, and he's been in Cheers. I recognized his voice. I'm like, that's the guy. That's the piggy bank, the Ham character from Toy Story. And he's kicking ass, and he's badass. Love that character. His lines, his dialogue, it's hilarious. But yeah, like the certain ideas, like you have a cameo by Kane Hodder in a gorilla suit, which I thought was pretty hilarious. Or you have a scene where the character is trying to prove that he's not cheating on his girlfriend. And he goes to this closet where he has Gramps at. And he opens it, and there's a girl in there, a smoking hot chick in there, and then his girlfriend slaps him. And then the other lead, Jonathan Stark character, gets slapped as well. And then they open it back up, and the Grams character is there, and you find out it's a reversible wall. Classic, man. I love the scene. It's just a movie that also, I realized, it's much more, because the first movie does have a good heart to it. It's much more of a horror film, though, but it still does have a good heart to it. Here, it's even more lighthearted. And I think it still works, because you have just scenes that I really thought were well done. Like, there's a scene where everybody else has left this house party, and, you know, our lead guy's girlfriend left, the other guy's girlfriend left, so they're pretty much there by themselves. And when they went to this kind of dinosaur age area, they brung back this, like, puppy caterpillar creature, which I thought the effect was really well done, very cute creature, and this baby kind of bird creature, and they're all having dinner. There's also the Cleopatra chick, she's there, and it's just a really well done scene. And the ending I thought was well done too, where our character, you know, is fighting this ghost cowboy guy, and you go into these different locations, ends up killing the cowboy ghost, and I can't remember the character's name, but he kills him, goes off with the Cleopatra character of Jonathan Stark during the Western Age, and they go off with the two creatures, and they're going to go off and be this family. And it's just a really well done ending. It's a really well done film. I think, just checking the time here on the video, I just think it's well directed, well made, well shot, has a good score. Again, I wouldn't say it's better than the first movie, but I would say it's a very, very solid sequel. It surprised me, because I was looking at it going, man, no William Catt, you know, no Steve Miner. Although I do think Fred Dekker wrote this movie. I do believe he did. It says here, Fred Dekker, inspired by original story by the director Ethan Wiley. So Fred Dekker did write this movie as well. So at least you had Fred Dekker coming back in this movie as well. But, you know, I was looking at it, I'm like, man, the first movie's rated R, this one's PG-13, you know, different cast, different plot. Is it really going to be as good? And I can't say it's as good, but it's pretty high up there as a sequel. I think it's easily, you know, one of the more better sequels out there. I definitely really enjoyed House 2. But yeah, that's pretty much going to be it for my thoughts on House 2. I'm going to give it probably a 7. Yeah, I'll give it a 7. 7 out of 10 for me. Definitely enjoyed House 2, the second story. Very fun film, very lighthearted. Really entertaining. It's just one of those horror films. It's just a horror film for the whole family. You know, it's wholesome. It's done well. It's funny. It's comedic. A lot more heavy emphasis on, you know, the comedic side, but I can really get behind that because it was done well. It was done well. I enjoyed it. Just a very unique sequel that I definitely thought was still a very solid film. But anyways, guys, 7 out of 10 for me. Definitely let me know your guys' thoughts on this film in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the review. And, yeah, very, very solid film, House 2. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching the review. Hope you enjoyed. The Explorer 4 is out. See you guys later. Bye!